What's up, everyone? Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Forces. I can't stop talking about Hazbin Hotel. I have a problem and I love it. Amir Talai, congratulations. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
How are you doing?
I thought I was signing up
place?
for Ladies' Night, and I'm a little disappointed.
I was so happy when I saw you pop up in that comment section, and I'm like, well, we have a show made just for you. I need to dig deep on every side. I'm like determined to make my rounds with the, well, right now, yes, with you, but I want to hit the entire ensemble.
Okay.
I feel like I've turned Collider into like the go-to place for Hazbin material, and I'm very proud of it.
That's a solid brand.
I mean, seriously, the way, not that it already didn't have a massive fan base, but the way
it's sort of
this
like
show
how,
took
like
off.
chips are like Doritos are like the official chip of the Super Bowl. Collider can be the official interview place of Hazbin Hotel.
Did you just compare my show to Doritos? That is like the highest honor ever.
I also compared our show to the Super Bowl.
I mean, that makes all the sense in the world to me. Can Doritos sponsor Collider Forces, please? And thank you. You watched Erica and Viv's Ladies' Nights?
I did.
Are you aware? So, you know what this is. You know the Dice Tower.
I've known about the Dice Tower for a long time.
You know how to use, and you know how to use one.
Several months I've known about the Dice Tower.
So
no, I saw the Dice Tower at a con because Blake is a big D&D guy.
Ah, okay.
And we've started doing this thing where we like sort of walk Artist Alley and Vendors Row at the end of cons. And so we walked up to this table and I was just staring at this tower and I was like, what is this? And the guy was so excited to tell me about it. And I was like, this is brilliant. I love it. And
that makes me so happy.
Yeah,
I need to do that at conventions. But like one of my biggest regrets from pretty much every convention I go to consistently is that like I do my work and I love my work, but I never take any time to, walk and see, like in particular Artist Alley. And I love when there's independent vendors who are making this like one-of-a-kind stuff you can't find anywhere else. I gotta do that more often.
Yeah, walking Artist Alley has been a really moving and fun thing for me because you walk around and there's a real sense of, people are making things with their hands. Even if it's on a computer, they're making things with their hands. And to see people, whether it's not about Hazbin, but especially if it is about Hazbin, to think that someone has been inspired by Hazbin in some way and gone, I'm going to make a thing. I'm going to use my artistry to create something Hazbin related. And I think other people will like it too. And to see like, sold out of this Alastor art, fan art. It's incredibly moving. And it feels, I think a lot of people have said this about conventions, that there's a real sense of community. And so my first couple conventions, I was just like at my table, like trying to get my bearings. But to be able to sort of walk around and sort of be in that, it is, it's really beautiful.
I love how I'm not going to the actual game we're about to play, but what is the most above and beyond piece of Alastor, like merch or fan art you've seen at any of those conventions?
There's a couple. One was a book. There's so many, but one was a zine. They call it a zine. This is so beyond what a fucking zine. Like in my head, a zine is a thing that you like 5 people made some shit, you photocopied it, you stapled it in the middle, and then you folded it, and then you gave it to me. That's a zine.
That's exactly what I was picturing, to be honest.
Right. No, this was like, and I wish I remember the name of the folks at this moment, but this was like, do you ever go get your hair cut at somewhere like really fancy and they have these fancy like fashion books?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So like it was like that. It was gorgeous. And in it, there was art. There were really nice pictures of people in cosplays. There were like articles. Like it was like an issue of Vogue, but even like more so. That kind of blew me away. And I guess one of the things I loved about that most was that it was a collaboration between I don't know, 200 people.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. I mean, because when you think about like all of the artists that had to be involved, all the cosplayers that had to be involved, all of the, you know, like the sort of just simple like layout people, right? The editors. That was pretty amazing. I've also gotten sort of, you know, incredible art done by like a 13-year-old kid, or like, you know, even just like this bracelet someone made me that has like crystals, and like they told me the meaning of the crystals. Like, this is a crystal that you know is a protection crystal. This is and I don't really believe in crystals, but but it's sweet, and you know what I mean. It's nice to. Yeah.
Oh,
so,
that's
anyway.
the coolest thing ever. I love that stuff. I just love fandom in general. And the Hazbin one in particular is very inspiring. All right. The time has come. You get 3 rolls on the tower.
Stoked.
All rolls are associated with random questions.
Yes, I know.
Let's see what we got.
8-sided die, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I hope it comes out the door. Did not. I did not bring enough sticky tack. I see a 7.
7.
Okay. My favorite question.
Oh, great.
Now I'm a little worried to ask you this because you just told me you've only seen 5 movies this year. This question is Scream. What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh gosh, I don't tend to like scary movies.
We're gonna fix that right now.
I don't like I don't like being surprised in that way. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't like feeling nervous. I don't like that.
Oh boy.
I don't like that sort of, I hope a bad thing doesn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like that. So what I'm trying to even, I don't see enough movies, frankly.
I've recommended this movie a couple of times on Ladies' Night, and I feel like I need to recommend it to you in particular because clearly you are a very talented singer yourself. And also this movie always feels safe to me because it's more of a horror comedy musical.
Okay.
It's Anna and the Apocalypse.
Okay.
And it's wonderful.
Okay.
It's delightful.
Okay.
So that one I feel like you're good with.
Okay. I'll watch it.
What is a horror movie that you've actually liked, though? Because I feel like I could give you more if I know the type that you're into.
A horror movie that, I mean, I will say, oh, you know what I liked? Jinn,
Oh.
the Iranian movie.
I have not seen that, and I've heard only the best things.
Oh, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like answers that leave me with homework.
It's great. It's great. And I think there's something really, really exciting about a movie that doesn't feel a horror movie where the production value doesn't feel extremely high, right? It feels very sort of indie, and to me that feels sort of realer, and almost. I think one of my problems with horror movies is that there's a level of manipulation to them that upsets me.
You're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
I guess it also could be true of any genre, though, but in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what the most emotionally manipulative movie I've ever seen is?
What's that?
And I despise it. If I walk in there's very few movies that I'll force people to turn off. If I walk in a room and this movie is on, I will either leave if people don't turn it off or like just smash the TV. Marley and Me. Hands down the most emotionally manipulative movie I've ever seen, to the point that it made me cry, but it did not earn those tears.
No, yeah, no. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Haven't seen it.
The movie enrages me. Clearly.
No,
Clearly.
I get it. Yeah. No, I would never see that movie.
No, don't see it. Don't see it. It's not good tears. Not good tears.
I also like The Ring.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I love how you're like, I don't like feeling nervous, and then you say you like The Ring.
Yeah. I don't know. I've sort of bitten the bullet and seen a couple, but that's just not my go-to by any means.
Okay.
My kind of movie is like a simple, like just like 4 people talking in a room kind of movie. Did you see Mass?
I'm obsessed with Mass. I think that is such an incredible film, and it was one of the biggest Academy Award misses.
Right.
The fact that didn't get any nominations is just
I don't know
not
how
right
that
to
world
me.
works though. Right? Like I don't know.
I know how that world works. I like a lot about that world because I do think, I know you guys don't make things to win awards, but I think awards are really important for a whole wide variety of reasons. But I also know there's lots of things about how that system works that's just not right, and it's honoring things for the wrong reasons. And I wish we could iron those out to make it a fairer space.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if ironing is quite the
taking a sledgehammer to it and rebuilding it.
Yeah,
I think that might be better.
I think that's my problem with that world.
Yeah.
Is it feels so it feels like a world unto itself as opposed to what we imagine it is when we're kids watching the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever. Like it feels like a very sort of straightforward meritocracy sort of thing. And it's like, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it.
I mean, I think about it with Hazbin, with the Emmys too. Like rolling up to Emmy nominations, I genuinely, like to my core, look at Hazbin Hotel and I'm like, that should get nominated.
Right.
But then in my realistic brain with how all of that works, I'm like, oh, like an animated musical that leans heavy horror has like a whole lot of like sex and all this other stuff in it that usually these voting bodies do not embrace.
Right.
I could see why that path might not seem the most likely for it.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, you're right.
Horror at the Oscars too. That's my dream. It's my dream. All right, that was roll one.
Oh.
We've been talking about horror for a while, which makes me very happy. Two is a Hazbin Hotel one.
Okay.
I'm very excited about this. If you could swap roles with anyone in the ensemble, you play their role and they play yours, who would you pick and why?
The easy answer is Pensius.
Ooh.
Because he's just weird. He's just weird and it's fun to be weird. But I also have such a soft spot for Charlie because I relate so hard to the optimism, the idealism, the occasional like blinders and the sort of like manicness that Charlie has. So I'm going to stick with Pensius, but close second is Charlie.
All right. I'll take both of those.
Yeah.
I love the idea of just even for fun, doing a complete cast role swap and re-recording one episode. I just love I love experiments like that.
That'd be hilarious. Or maybe we could do that if we did like a concert. You know what I mean?
I have a lot of questions about that. How has nobody, or maybe someone has, like realistically pitched the idea of doing some sort of live show?
Oh, it's been pitched. I mean, it's certainly been pitched. And I think I would be stunned. I'd be gobsmacked if it didn't happen someday.
Okay.
I don't know when that'll be. I know it would obviously, there'd be so many moving parts. And there's also the question of like, well, what do you want it to be, right? Like, do you want it to be highly produced or not? Do you want it to just be like us and a piano in a place that seats 200 folks? Or do you want it to have, I don't know, sets, right? Like, or do you want it to have, like, how big is the orchestra, right? Is it just Sam playing on piano? Or what if it was like 15, 25 musicians? Well, that obviously is a much heavier lift, right?
I've thought about it many ways. I feel like the baby step should be, just all of you and a piano, just getting up, doing the songs together. And I think people would eat that up. It's impossible for obvious reasons for me not to watch Hazbin and think you need to bring it to like a Broadway stage and do it up really big. I feel like this is the worst comp to make because I know the show wasn't widely beloved, but picturing something like Hazbin done with costume design that was featured in like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, like that's what I'm picturing.
Sure.
The costume work in that was beautiful.
Right. Yes. But again, right. So that's, and let's go even smaller. What if we did 5 people in a room this big and live streamed it? Right? Like, so there's so many conversations that are just way above my pay grade. And but all I can say is it'll happen someday. Yeah. I hope it happens sooner rather than later. But then the other issue is we've got several people who are like on Broadway shows and, or in actual TV series. So scheduling's, I'm sure, gonna be a nightmare.
I get it. But I do believe you're right. I think it's going to happen.
Yes.
And I will be there for it.
Yeah.
All right. One more roll in the tower. Man, I should have brought more sticky tack with me.
4.
Oh, so this is a meaty acting question now. This is high-low. I want you to give me an audition high, but then I also want to know an audition low you experienced and what you learned from it that you applied to future auditions.
So the low that popped into my
Wow.
Oh God. So this was probably around 2004, between 2004, 2008. There was a movie on Comedy Central called Knee High P.I.
Okay.
And it was about a little person who is a private investigator. And I auditioned for a role, and it was some Middle Eastern role. And it was 2 lines. And at the end, the end of the scene, I had to mime making out with a camel.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you do it. And the casting director goes, "That was great. Thank you." And I walked out and I called my agent. I was like, "Hey, I don't know if I want that if they offer me the job."
Wow.
That was a low. Oh, another great low that I don't think I've ever I don't think she knows this even. I was working as an intern in a casting office.
Ooh.
And there was a role that was actually right for me in this project. And she was like, "Hey, you should audition for this." I was like, "Oh, that'd be great." But the sides, the audition material were not very good. They just didn't lend themselves to comedy, but it was a funny role. But the audition material itself is not great. So I do it and I start and I'm just dying and it's not going well. And then I start to get in my head and I'm while I'm auditioning, I'm like, should I stop? Should I leave? This is the worst. I think I'm going to stop. No, you can't stop. You have to finish the audition. That's crazy. Finish the audition, dude. This is while I'm saying lines. I'm having this insane monologue. And I finish. And they go, "Thanks." And I was like, yep, I shit the bed. And the next day I go to the office and I'm there before her. And I see her notes on the table. And I go, well. And I just know, I can hear her coming down the hallway if she comes. So I know I'm safe. So I go over to her notes. And I go to my page. And there's just 2 words. Not funny.
Oi, babe. Oh.
I was just like, oh my God.
I have to follow up on that. How do you shake something like that? Because I assume you did not see Inside Out 2. There's a part in Inside Out 2 where the main...
I can't wait to see it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to spoil anything, but now I'm kind of going to. But it's an itty-bitty thing, I swear. There's a part where the main character looks at the hockey coach's notes to see if she's going to make the team or not. And it's like a whole thing. Should she look? Should she not look? And that's what that reminded me of. How do you get, especially when you're first starting out, I imagine, how do you see something like that and not let it get you down?
Well, I justified it as this isn't entirely my fault because I knew the material wasn't great. And like she was right in that moment. Like I shit the bed. Fortunately, there was another audition coming up for which I could choose the material. So I did. And I knocked it out of the park. And the next day I go to the office, get there before her. So I look through.
No.
And she just writes, very funny, underline. And I was like, oh, thank Christ.
I love the turnaround.
I obviously
there.
didn't book either, but that, yeah. So
okay.
highs and lows in the same office.
I like
actually.
that.
Yeah.
I like that quite a bit. All right. We've hit the meat of our interview now.
Great.
First question is always, what is the movie you saw, performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor?
So this is so weird, but it was either there was two. One was like Beverly Hills Cop, because Eddie Murphy was so he was so just sort of in control of that movie comedically. Like he just had his way with that movie and with everyone in that movie. And I was always so impressed by him. But one that stuck with me weirdly is Michael Winslow in Police Academy, which none of my has-been folks are going to know this at all. But so I don't know. Did you watch the Police Academy movies at all? Okay, great. So he was the one who did all of the sound effects. He did. You'd be like, someone would be walking down the street and he'd go, boop, 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 boop. And I just remember being entranced by that. I remember thinking like, this is magic. And I didn't have any sense that I could do that, but I just went, I want to be a part of this world. I want to be a part of a world where that's what you're good at. And they just let you be in movies.
I love that answer. So you discovered the itch to do that, but then I read you went to college and you got a degree in mass communications.
I did.
What made you pursue that particular degree? And at the time, how did you picture yourself using the degree?
Well, my first instinct was like, get a real degree. And I went into math because I thought I'd be a math teacher, because I loved math. I took a really difficult math class first and killed it. Then I took a really easy one and shit the bed. And I went, maybe this isn't, what am I doing? And so I thought mass communication seemed like a good move because at UC Berkeley, it's a major that you can sort of tailor to your sort of needs. And so I focused on sort of advertising and marketing. And I thought I would go into advertising, into sort of making commercials or that kind of world. And then as soon as I graduated, it dawned on me that an entry-level job in advertising is like 50, 60 hours a week, which would leave me no time to act. So I basically just abandoned it immediately. And what's interesting is that my degree actually ended up serving me more than I expected it to about 5 years after I graduated, because I started to examine the media that I was participating in through the lens of what I studied in college. Because at UC Berkeley, the advertising and marketing degree is a little more theoretical than practical. And so I really sort of wised up to like, what are the stories we tell? What effect is that having on the audience and society at large, right? Why does it matter that most of the leads in Hollywood movies are white? Like, what impact does that have? And how can I move around in an industry that is not made for me?
What happened 5 years into the pursuit of turning this into a career that made you, like, I guess, figure out what, like, the priorities were to carve that kind of path for yourself?
Well, I think the first 5 years I was just I was sort of saying yes to everything, auditioning for absolutely everything, just trying to get people to like know who I am and hire me. And I reached a place where I was like, oh, pretty much everyone knows me. And yet there are a lot of sort of barriers for me, right? So once I had reached the stage where I was like, oh, I'm doing about as well as a Persian guy in his mid-20s can do. And yet there's so many doors that are closed to me. And I started to examine those doors, right? Because the first 5 years was like, just get as much as you can. And then I did. And I was like, and yet there's this gulf. So that's what it was. It was me sort of stepping back and going, oh, okay.
This is jumping ahead considerably, but what is a recent door that you identified as being closed that just burst open for you and gives you hope for the future of this industry?
I think what I don't have the experience of doors bursting open. I think if I were to describe it, doors peek open briefly and you slide through if you can, but they don't stay open. And I'm talking about opportunities for Persian guys, for trans kids, for fat people, anyone who is not sort of the typical. They always, how many times have we heard at the Oscars, like, this is the year of the woman, right? And like, it's happened so many times, and yet, right? And, same thing in politics, and same thing when it has to do with sort of like race at the Oscars, right? I remember not too long ago, there were more green leads on Broadway than there were black leads.
Wow, what a fact.
Right?
Huh.
And so, I have hope for the future, because I see that door swinging open more frequently, but I wouldn't say it's been burst open in any way.
Should.
Yeah.
I'm hoping maybe Hazbin will contribute to that.
It certainly has,
Yeah.
and will. So, yeah.
Okay, before I dig into Hazbin too much,
Yeah.
I want to go back. I want to touch on a couple of specific titles that you've been in, but first a broader question. Of all of your earliest film and television experiences, which would you say taught you the most about what you value most in the stories you go on to tell, and also the on-set environments you're a part of?
Well, one of the first things I ever did, which ended up being which I hold incredibly dear to my heart, is called Campus Ladies. And I don't think it's really sort of available anywhere. And that might be a good thing, because I know we certainly pushed the envelope on some of the comedy, and it might, who knows, it could get some people in trouble if it came out. No. But it was a show that was soft scripted, like Curb Your Enthusiasm. And so they came to us not with scripts, but with outlines. And they said, this is what we're going to talk about in this scene. Go crazy. And my character was a fresh off the boat Persian kid in college. But I got to bring a lot of myself to that. And that was the most collaborative thing I've ever been a part of. And it's funny, I've been sort of chasing that dragon ever since, right? Being a part of something where everyone is creating. I felt like an actor and a writer at the same time. It helped that it was on Oxygen Network and I was getting paid nothing because the stakes were so low. The higher you get, the more fear there is. And the less people are willing to let you play.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, one of the I say this mantra every day. And it's both sort of aspirational, but also like sort of. So I am grateful to be at the top of my field, which is not the case yet. Making millions of dollars, which is not the case yet. Having fun working with amazing people. And that third part is happening. And it's great to sort of focus on the things that, look, the fact is, especially for certain types of performers, you're not going to get that sort of deep Oscar-winning role most of the time. And so what you have to do is you have to enjoy sort of everything else. And that actually sort of seeing the obstacles in Hollywood has made me recalibrate and go, what is really important to me in life? And what's really important to me in life is not winning an Oscar, but it's having fun working with amazing people. If I can do that, that's way more important than a statue.
I like that priority quite a bit.
Yeah.
I still think the statues should go to the deserving people, but that is the right priority.
Yeah.
That's what gives you that fire that keeps you going.
Totally.
All right, as I promised, a couple of very specific titles. This first one's really random. The Sims Hot Date. Just like I have to know, when you did that, did you speak what's the Sims
Simlish?
Was it scripted, or I don't play The Sims anymore, but when it first came out, it was like the coolest thing ever as a kid. And I remember hearing that the actors like made it up on the spot. Yeah. Did you get to make it up, or you scripted?
So they gave us lines like, so it was a add-on pack. What do you call it? Expansion pack.
Yes, thank you.
So it was an expansion pack that was if you wanted to send your Sims on dates. And so all of the stuff that I did had to do with the dating world. And so they would give us lines like, they are at a pond at a park. They are in a Dave & Buster's type of place. And then they would say, it's going well. It's not going well. You're flirting. You're hitting on her really hard, right? But then within that, you have to just like the phonemes, right? It's not even words. And so what I did, my way, was I wrote out the alphabet in a grid. So I wrote like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and in a little box. And I would move my eyes around that grid in order to form words. So that's how I did my Simlish.
Oh, that's fascinating. Do you remember any particular word you came up with?
No, this is way over 20 years ago.
I'm fascinated by that process. That seems like a really exciting creative opportunity, though.
It was fun. It was fun, and we came back a lot. They spent a lot of time getting that right, and it was fun.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going from The Sims. This is a complete 180. To American Horror Story.
Oh.
Because you have one of the best claims to fame out there. You were killed on screen by Sarah Paulson.
I was.
What was it like working opposite her? And also, I guess, in the American Horror Story machine, because at that point, I believe they were 5 seasons in.
Something like that, yeah. It was great. It was, what's funny? I don't watch those shows. I think I watched season 1 with my wife.
Season 1's good. Season 1's one of the scariest of them all, too.
Yeah. But then it's a little crazy. It gets a little crazy, and it's overwhelming for me. I don't like media that's overwhelming. I like a simple, like mass. Yeah. 4 people in a room talking. Just talk. God, I mean, that was incredible. I worked with Kathy Bates. I worked with Sarah Paulson. I worked very briefly with Lady Gaga. I think at that point, especially because a lot of those people had already worked together for several seasons, that thing was just sort of a well-oiled machine. And in Hotel, it's fun because there's so many, guests. And so we all just sort of show up and are just in awe of these people. Sarah was lovely. She was in sort of full out strung out mode
Oh, yeah.
in that scene. So we weren't like, so what are you doing this
Yeah.
weekend? Yeah, that was really fun. And it's wild that people still, people still watch it still.
The show's still going.
Sure.
Admittedly, I've fallen off in recent years. It's just so much to keep up with. But when I started in this business, that was like one of the shows that gave my horror-loving heart like fuel and life.
Sure.
So now, the next one is Ghosts. I adore that show. I adore that ensemble. When you step onto a set for a role that is a one-episode role, it can be hard and overwhelming and scary when you're stepping into the middle of an ensemble who work together constantly on every single episode.
Yeah.
What was it like stepping onto that particular set? What did they do for you that helped you deliver your best work?
Trivia, I auditioned for Richie Moriarty's role.
I could see that, honestly. I could see that.
I loved the UK version. And when I went in to audition for the US version, I was like, guys, can I just tell you, this pilot script, you fucking nailed it. Like, you captured everything that's fantastic about the UK version. And I love this. And even if I don't get this, I can't wait to watch it. Like, this is awesome. And then I was a fan of that show. And it's one of the few shows that I've worked on, that I've watched before I got the chance to be on. And I knew Utkarsh from the Brown Circuit, as I call it. And so I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm going to be on the show. I'm so excited. And he goes, okay, well, I'm not going to be there the first 2 days, but here's Roman's number. He's gonna text you and you guys should hang out. Roman shows up at my hotel. And he's like, hey, we're going out to dinner. Let's go. Before I shoot a minute on that show, I'm at dinner with the entire cast and we're just hanging out. And that cast, and it's so funny because I watched some of your stuff with them at Comic-Con and you're like, you guys are so sweet. Like, yeah, they're the fucking best. The one of the funniest, probably the funniest and kindest cast that I've ever been around. And I just felt so lucky to be with them. So yeah, I mean, a very, very unusual experience because I felt incredibly at home with those people.
That's amazing. As you were explaining that, I'm like, as though I couldn't love them enough already.
Man.
That's an important thing because there's so many shows out there where the main cast is the main cast and then someone steps in for like a role that's a big deal. And if you feel like an outsider, you're just not teed up for success. So the fact that they do, and I think it shows in literally every single episode because they're constantly bringing new people into the B&B.
Sure.
And you see everyone just like peak performance every single time.
I think a lot of that, in my experience, the vibe on set is dictated primarily by two people, the showrunner or showrunners, and the number one on the call sheet. And I think that Rose is kind of just like a perfect person to have as your star. She's so talented and so prepared, but so incredibly generous and warm. And I think and the Joes are so great. It just trickles down from the three of them. It's such a great vibe. Yeah.
I love hearing about like good people getting good things.
Oh my God. Yeah. Totally.
All of that for them and all of that for all of you on Hazbin. All right, that's where I'm going next. I'll go back to the very, very beginning. What was your first impression of Alastor when Viv first pitched the role to you compared to who he turned out to be when you really dug out?
She didn't pitch the role to me. What are you talking about?
Because I know she saw your performance and was like,
she saw YouTube
this is what
and then they
I
were
imagined.
They were like, let's have him audition, and I auditioned, and then I got it. Like, so there was no pitching.
What did you audition with?
I think I did. Well, I know I sang "You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile," but I also what did I? what was the scene? I don't remember the scene, but I still have the audition on my phone. And like my dream is to like release everyone's auditions at some point.
I feel like
Because we all have them.
You're teed up to. I obviously want to see it now. But now that you're getting seasons 3 and 4, which is wild. I didn't even say congratulations. That's a renewal like that is a very big deal. I feel like well into it is when you release, like back in the early days when we all auditioned, this is what it looked like.
Yeah, totally.
I love that stuff.
So, and when I auditioned, the email said, Hazbin Hotel, this many episodes on A24 because we weren't with Amazon. So so I was like, so what's the platform? And they're like, A24. I'm like, that's not a platform. And they're like, yeah, but it's huge on YouTube. And I was like, okay, huge on YouTube, whatever. Because
little did you know.
Anytime you get an audition, the producers tell you what a massive deal the show's gonna be. And so I just thought this was one of those. I just thought it was the producers pumping themselves up. And I was like, all right, well, whatever. Like, I'll do it. And got paid very little for the first season. And so I was like, great, 8 episodes will be fun. And then I got in there and Viv's so great and Richard's so great. And I was like, okay, I don't know what will become of this, but this is really, really fun. This is really fun. And, I think I don't know. I don't know if they envisioned him as sort of sassy as I ended up sort of making him at points. I don't know. You asked what was the difference between what he was and what he's become. I still think there's so much more to explore with him that I don't think he's become very different from what he started as. But we'll see what happens.
Oh, I'm gonna dare to get close to some of that information towards the end, but I'm going to wait. But I will say, I did a similar thing where I vividly remember a Christmas party at Amazon and someone came up to me, you got to check out this Hazbin Hotel, and like briefly tried to explain it to me. And it's not that I dismissed them, but it didn't really sink in because I wasn't fully aware of what it was. And like one of my biggest regrets from late last year is not being like on my game and ready for when this show came out, because I didn't do my first interviews until maybe a month or two after release. And I wish I took them more seriously and was more prepared.
Well, it's also, it's a tough pitch, isn't it?
That's part of the reason why I asked the question, because if you, like, sight unseen, someone who knows nothing about this world, if you pitch them this concept, who knows what they're picturing? Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think that's why I had no expectations going in. I wouldn't say low expectations, just no expectations. Like I don't really know what to make of this, but it's a job, so yeah, let's do it.
I get it. I get that mentality. And now you're like fully consumed by it.
Yeah.
So you get the role. I don't know if this has happened to you, but someone brought this up recently, and I've gotten like a little obsessed with the question. They told me that when you first jump into a show, there's always that period where it's scary because you're on unstable ground and you don't fully know your character. But then you have that moment where it clicks and you know you found them. Did you have that with Alastor? And if so, with which scene?
I think that I had a really clear sense. I don't think I was ever sort of like, I don't know if I know this guy. I think especially because I had played Bert Healy, and because Viv was like, this guy is sort of inspired by Bert Healy's song, You're Never Fully Dressed Without a Smile, I had a sense of him very early on. If there is one moment where I was like, oh, here's a door, it was when we started to play around with like his bitchy side. Mm-hmm. And that's probably an angle that I hadn't anticipated, and it's so delicious. And so when we started to get into that, I was like, oh, this is fun.
That's a good one.
This is fun. And it's really fun how the fans of the show have called him sassy.
I have seen that word used a lot.
I love that word.
Wait, now because you just laughed, did you always know you had like a pitch perfect evil laugh?
I've often
Because that one was also so joyful, but then I'm hearing what you do in the show, and it's two polar opposite things.
I've often been told I love your laugh. And I've always, I don't know. I've always been a big laugher, and I always have loved laughing in character in various roles. But I would not have said like, oh, I'm made for evil laughs.
I mean, now having watched the show, you kind of are. This is a very specific question. Is it difficult to transition from singing into one of those evil laughs?
Not really. Not really. I don't know. I have always been a very sort of like instinctual vocal performer. Perhaps to my detriment. Because you know, after a while you kind of pay for it. I think if I had ever done like Broadway and done like a year on something, I might have suffered. But because I tend to do like quick hits, I've been okay. But now I need to, you know, bear down and be smarter about it since I'm going to be in front of people a lot more. But no, I just, you know, just the same way sort of Michael Winslow would go from one thing to another. I've always just sort of enjoyed jumping, and because I have an improv background. Yeah.
Groundlings, yeah. All right, that makes sense. Looking back on making season 1, was there any particular scene or maybe even a specific line of dialogue that it was most challenging to get pitch perfect, where you had to play around with it to find the right tone for the moment?
So it wasn't so much about like getting it pitch perfect, but it was a lot of the sort of patter in the songs, like Hell's Greatest Dad is so fast. And someday when I perform that song live, I'm gonna have to work my ass off to fit all those words in. Fortunately, in the booth, you can do it sort of 4 measures at a time.
Yeah.
And really nail it before you move on to the next one.
That's what I was wondering about with the laugh too, because I'm thinking like you could just like sing the lines and then do that after. But
right.
It sounds so fluid all the time.
It's funny. One of the laughs that a lot of people, I think it's at the end of Stayed Gone. Yeah. People really respond to that one. And I was surprised they chose that one because I was like, I feel like I had a better one than that. But okay. And then people were like, we love that. And I was like, all right.
No, it's good. Like it like cuts through. It's like the music is so catchy and you can't help but to want to keep listening to it over and over. And then all of a sudden you get a laugh. And you're like, I just want to listen to the laugh over and over now also. I'll touch on the songs briefly. Of all of the songs going into recording, which did you think was going to be the most difficult for you? And I guess that particular song might come back now, but what wound up being the toughest?
That one. Yeah, it was just that one. Oh, and it's interesting. Stayed Gone was interesting because I was like, this feels really slow. Are people gonna be into this? Like I didn't have the foresight to understand that like Vox's verse being faster and then Alastor slowing down with the animation would actually be so compelling. To me, it felt really legato. And I was like, and you know, then this is just my sort of nervousness. I hope people aren't bored by me.
Oh no. I will say, like, it obviously works very well paired with the animation, but even separate from that's one of the things that I appreciate about all the music in Hazbin is I love like the tonal and style changes that happen when you least expect it, but then wind up feeling so right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't make music because I stopped playing music a long time ago, but that's just something that always feels so difficult for me to like pull off well.
Yeah. I'm constantly wowed by them.
Oh, they're so good. All right. I'm going to veer back into character territory and then tiptoe into season 2. I hope you can answer some of these. I heard you say in another interview, Alastor is the worst overlord in hell. Like, were you joking? Do you really believe he is the absolute worst of them all?
I don't remember that interview.
I unearth everything.
Yeah. I think I just meant like he's considered the most powerful one.
Okay.
And isn't that right? Look, I haven't watched the show in a while, but
I would say so. Yeah. At this point, I've done a lot of like previous. I've like watched the pilot, and I've looked up, all the fan theories, and also some of the information that Viv has put out there. It does seem like he could be, but I was also maybe interpreting that as, like just the worst being with minimal. I was about to say minimal morals, but I feel like he's got a little bit more of a compass to follow than some of the others, where there's certain lines he won't cross.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, it depends. It depends who you're talking about. Like, all of the sort of overlords at that table, like, we haven't gotten into them. So for all we know, Zestial could be a real motherfucker.
I won't believe it. I won't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that.
Okay.
On if he's the worst.
Do you think he's redeemable?
I think that anyone is redeemable. I think that's one of the beautiful things about this show. Mm-hmm. But they have to be willing to put in the work. And the worse, the more bad you've done, the more work you're going to have to do to redeem yourself. So Alastor did some bad things in his life among the living. He's done some bad things down in hell. And if he's going to redeem himself, he has to work very hard. But he has to want it first. I think there's a lot of people that don't want to be redeemed in hell and on earth. Right?
That's too true.
There's plenty of people who are like, I'm good.
Okay. I'm curious to see if he winds up choosing that path. I'll do one more question before season 2 stuff. Of all of the other characters in the show, who do you think he cares about the most? Like, who will he go above and beyond for versus anyone else?
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay. I respect that. I don't want to spoil anything. I have a string of questions here that you might need to play that card for. Okay. So here's actually my first season 2 question is probably a safer one. With all the material you got to record in season 2, can you tell me something about it that kind of pushed you as a voice actor, like a new tool you gained because it challenged you to do something for the first time?
I think vocally, I've always been very, I would say on the safe side, right? Like, I want to do it right. I want to nail the notes and the rhythms. And I think watching season 1, and especially some of the stuff that Erica does, that Alex does, that Jeremy does, the sort of wilder stuff they do in songs was very inspiring to me. And so I took some more risks in season 2 vocally that I haven't really taken in my life before. And I remember going, let me try something, Sam, and doing it, and him going, great. I was not expecting that. And it was fun to push myself in that way because of being inspired by them.
2 follow-up questions. Again, I don't want you to spoil anything, but can you kind of like point us in the right direction so that when we hear you do something, we might know like that is purely you?
I don't think I don't think I need to.
Oh, I love that answer. I love that answer so much.
You're going to hear it and you'll go, oh, that was it.
Okay, I'll take that. something in your answer before made me think of this season 1 question that I didn't ask and I wanted to. Because I think I heard in another interview you said something like the animators were really good at seeing what you did in the booth and kind of incorporating it in the final animation. Is there anything in season 1 that you see Alastor do physically that made you think like, oh shit, that like actually is me?
It's when he turns his head 360 degrees.
That makes sense.
That was right out of the booth.
Like a mannerism or something.
I think some of his like sassier moments, right? Like sort of his head cocks and stuff like that feels like I feel like I did that in the booth.
I like that. All right. Oh man, I just get like more and more dangerous with every single question on my list. What is something about what he experiences in season 1 that evolves who he is in season 2?
No.
I had a feeling. I can't wait to get a no on this one too. But we do know this because Viv confirmed it. We're going to get some Alastor backstory in season 2.
I think that's pretty well confirmed at this point.
Okay.
There was a piece somewhere that said it will be a key focus of season 2. And I think that's debatable based on what key focus means to you and what how much you love Alastor. Because I think his backstory could take up every episode. And there will be some people who are like, I don't think that was important enough, right? And then it could take up maybe, one great scene, and people are like, okay, I get it. So I guess what I would say is, if you read key focus, throw that out. But yeah, I mean, I think yes, we touch on his backstory in season 2.
Okay. So now here's my dangerous question that you'll probably say no to.
I checked with Viv on that. I was like, hey, I read one interview, but then this, and she was like, yeah, I think at this point people have correctly inferred that we do have Alastor backstory in season 2. So feel free to talk about that.
I appreciate the attention to detail that. Like, Collider is always very, very careful with accurately representing the quotes in the headline because, like, you don't ever want to give the wrong impression.
Sure.
Oh, boy. What is it? Is there anything about Alastor's backstory that you can tease that maybe, like, reshaped the character for you? Like, something oh, man, I'm asking for too many specifics, but something about him that you never realized was there at the very beginning that has now influenced how you play the character?
No. I would say that what the backstory that happens in season 2, I was told about during season 1 production.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's a real answer, too. I asked this to Viv and Erica, so now I'm going to toss it to you as well.
Except for one thing.
Oh, wait, what? Except for one thing.
Yeah. There was one thing where I went, oh.
All right. I just like that tease. I won't even push.
Great.
I like that tease.
Great.
So this is a question that I asked them at Comic-Con, and now I want your answer as well. Of all of the episodes in season 2, which one are you most excited for fans to see, and can you tease why?
It's, the first time you find out something. There's a surprise about Alastor's backstory. And so I think it'd be boring if it were all expected, right? So there's a surprise about his backstory, and I'm excited for fans to see that surprise.
I am pumped. I'm pumped. I'll repurpose that question and apply it to the songs now. Of all the songs you get to sing in season 2, which are you most excited for people to hear, and can you tease why?
There's one song that someone else sings.
Ooh.
That I'm really, really excited about.
Can you give me any hints?
It is unexpected and fun.
Unexpected and fun. Okay. I'm going to have to circle. This I can't piece together. I always love teases where, like, when I watch the thing, I could be like, I remember he told me about that.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going to go with this one.
It's going to be,
You can't say who sings it.
No, gosh.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Ooh, now the wheels in my head are turning even more. All right. I'll let you off the hook with season 2 stuff. This is our last question for Collider Forces.
Okay.
Every single ladies' night and Forces ends with this question now.
Okay.
I love this question. In this industry, I find that people don't tell themselves good job as much as they should. I want you to tell me something you did in either season 1 or 2 of Hazbin that you know you'll always be able to look back on and say, I'm so proud of what I did there.
I guess I'm really proud of what I did vocally in season 2. I think that going into season 2, I felt a lot of nervousness around the fact that sort of everyone in this show but me has done Broadway and is a pretty accomplished musical theater performer. And obviously I've done a fair amount of musicals as well. But they have a sort of pedigree in a different way than I do. And I think that sometimes that can make you shrink a little bit. And I'm proud that in season 2, I didn't shrink and go, let me just play it safe because I'm doing a duet with this incredible person. Let me let it rip. Let me show them what I got. Let me connect to the fact that I belong here. We for the premiere in New York of season 1, after the premiere, we all went to like this cabaret venue and everyone sang like a song. And I was so nervous because I was like, I'm the only person who's never performed in New York in any kind of way, right? Like there are people who have performed on Broadway stages in New York for years. And here I am, this dude who, does improv at the Groundlings, occasionally gets a chance to be in a cartoon. And now I'm singing. And, it was interesting because it was like, I had never met any of these people before. And now I'm performing for them. And I was a little under the weather. And I was really, really nervous. And so I'm proud when I think of how far I've come just confidence-wise from, 7 months ago to about, a month or 2 ago, finishing season 2 and knowing that like I can do this vocally. And to be fair, a part of that is my fellow cast members being like, bro, you belong here.
You got the best filmmaking family on this show.
I love
Everyone
them.
is so, like watching all of you just seem so in sync it's wild. It's very special.
It really is. I mean, it's a lot like Ghosts actually. That it's really just sometimes it's just dumb luck that you just end up in a project where everyone is kind and what's the mantra? Having fun working with amazing people. And they're just amazing people.
Dumb luck, or you have like a beacon at the center of it like Viv, who has just got like a good heart and work ethic and all that stuff and just attracts similar people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, maybe, but it's not like she interviewed me before she gave me the role.
That's fair.
I could have turned out to be a huge dick. I could have turned out to not get along with, Blake and Erica and everybody else as much as I do. I really, look, not to take anything away from Viv, she's a fantastic showrunner and boss in person and friend. Like, I adore her like on a heart level. But no, I really do think it was luck. And that actually makes it even more special in a way because it's just magic, right? It's one thing if someone sets out to say, I'm only going to hire people who have good hearts and are going to get along with each other because then, they set a blueprint for themselves and they succeeded in that. But Vivienne said, I just want the most talented, interesting people. And she got them. And then magically, we all got along. Like, that's kind of mind-blowing.
It is kind of beautiful when you put it that way.
Yeah.
I think you should be proud of everything you just said. Also, Hazbin is next level special because it is a show that I think makes a lot of people feel seen and understood. But then also you and the rest of the ensemble take that to the next level by doing these conventions and really having meaningful interactions with fans that really just ups that effect tenfold. And that is important. So please be very proud of that as well. I'm going to say huge congratulations on Hazbin Season 1. I can't wait for Season 2. Thank you for tolerating my interrogation questions. You aced them. Okay, I don't think you spoiled anything or said anything you shouldn't have.
Well,
so.
all of my handlers outside are
yeah, really.
There's so many people out there.
When Viv was here, there was like a legit banging on the window at one point.
Are you serious?
I think it was because I kept her for too long, not because she knows what to say and what not to say. Okay. And also, I'm very respectful. I don't want to spoil anything, but I also want everything now.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.